Against the background of numerous reports that the armed forces of Ukraine began to slow down the offensive pace and are gradually preparing for defensive tactics in the Zaporizhzhia direction, General Zaluzhny urgently visited the city of Orekhov and met with the High Military Command, which is responsible for the offensive actions of the Ukrainian army in this direction of the front. The meeting of General Zaluzhny with the high command of the groups of troops took place on October 7. Later, Zaluzhny himself reported that he had held an important meeting with all the commanders responsible for offensive actions in the Zaporizhzhia direction, and also assessed the situation at the front. Meanwhile, military experts were trying to understand the true reason for General Zaluzhny's visit to the front. According to them, General Zaluzhny is doing everything to ensure that the armed forces of Ukraine continue offensive operations as long as possible. At the same time, Zaluzhny is also trying to calm down Ukrainian soldiers and officers who have increasingly begun to express their dissatisfaction with the current Kiev authorities against the background of dubious tactical successes at the front and President Zelensky's constant demand to go forward at any cost. Experts note that despite the catastrophic losses of the armed forces of Ukraine in manpower and heavy equipment, the country's top leadership continues to demand that the Ukrainian army go forward, even despite the fact that, for 4 months of counteroffensive, the armed forces of Ukraine have not been able to achieve at least one strategic goal. Many analysts are sure that General Zaluzhny's visit to the frontline city of Orekhov took place on the direct instructions of President Zelensky. General Zaluzhny should convince the Ukrainian military not to show discontent and continue the offensive. According to experts, from the point of view of military art, the further offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine not only makes no sense, but also carries great danger, since the huge losses of the Ukrainian army in manpower and heavy equipment do not allow covering the flanks. And the risks of the formation of the so-called fire bags and cauldrons are becoming more and more. At the moment, all actions of the armed forces of Ukraine are of a short-term nature, aimed at solving only political tasks. And this is a big strategic mistake of the Kiev authorities, who continue to put pressure on the armed forces of Ukraine and demand that they move forward despite the huge losses in manpower and heavy equipment. In the long term, all this will create big problems for the Ukrainian army, and the loss of new territories will not be possible to avoid. Military experts note that the pace and power of the offensive actions of the armed forces of Ukraine have significantly decreased. It is reported that the armed forces of Ukraine no longer use tanks and infantry fighting vehicles during attempts to advance. According to war correspondents, the armed forces of Ukraine began to use conventional pickup trucks more and more often, which indicates the deplorable state of the offensive units of the Ukrainian army. It seems that the Ukrainian authorities seriously hope that the West will be able to convince Russia to freeze the conflict, and therefore, Kiev is trying to move forward as deeply as possible, regardless of the losses of the armed forces of Ukraine. However, if Russia refuses to freeze the conflict and begins its counteroffensive, the Ukrainian army simply will not be able to physically stop the Russian troops, since the unsuccessful offensive actions during the summer campaign significantly weakened the Ukrainian armed forces. Meanwhile, it became known about the growing conflict of Polish mercenaries with the armed forces of Ukraine. Official Warsaw expressed its dissatisfaction with the fact that Polish mercenaries began to die more and more often at the hands of the Ukrainian army. For example, a few days ago, Ukrainian commanders sent a group of Polish mercenaries to the area of the village of Kopani. A few minutes later, this group of Polish mercenaries was completely destroyed by the strike of Russian heavy flamethrower systems. Later, Poland accused the command of the armed forces of Ukraine that it had specifically sent a group of Polish mercenaries to a deliberately dangerous area. Experts suggest that by these actions, Ukrainians are trying to stop Warsaw's pressure on Kiev on the issue of command and control. Moreover, the Ukrainian command was also dissatisfied with the fact that the Poles were collecting information from the battlefield and transferring it to Washington. Whatever it was, the confrontation of the Ukrainian army with the so-called Polish mercenaries is only growing, and over time, this problem may become fatal for the Kiev authorities.